This deposition has crazy stuff in it. They talk about his egg-shaped in it. This deposition also has a very famous line from it where Jeffrey Epstein says, "I hate pedophiles." It's terrifying. It's fascinating. It's also kind of funny in a weird way because this is not a funny situation at all. But when you got a guy like Jeffrey Epstein being like, "I hate pedophiles," like, it's kind of funny. I guess maybe he just hates competition. I don't know. Let's get to the bombshell Wall Street Journal reporting, which is like kind of not a bombshell. A lot of the stuff that keeps coming out about like Trump and Jeffrey Epstein's relationship is presented as a bombshell, but it's more like, I don't know. It's just not really a bombshell because like we know that they were connected. We just didn't know how connected they were, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's just like additional confirmation, I guess.
Ghislaine Maxwell is expected to meet this morning with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, once Donald Trump's criminal defense attorney. Blanche said he wants to know if Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims. Her attorney said Ghislaine will always testify truthfully. She was convicted of sex trafficking and enabling Epstein's abuse of women and girls. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison and has been trying to get out on appeal ever since. Trump supporters have been clamoring for the release of more information about Epstein.
Well, considering what Donald Trump did with the J6 offenders, many of which were also child sex crime offenders as well, considering he offered blanket pardons and his administration also advocated to make sure that like some of them actually were free of the additional charges they got due to the investigation that was conducted to their prior misconduct that involved around child predation, CSAM, child sexual abuse material. Is it all that unique that he wants another pedophile sex trafficker to roam free on the streets? If anything, this kind of goes along with what Donald Trump did with a lot of the J6ers. So, you know, pardoning Ghislaine would be the end of him though, right? Or is America truly gone nuts? I think only time will tell. But if you ask me what my opinion is, if I am to speculate on where this goes, I think that this will actually cause a major fissure in his base of support. Having said that, there will still be cults that there will still be cult followers that will say, no, Ghislaine actually said Trump was not involved. You know, that's what it is. Because there's like plenty of ride or dies that are really stupid. You have to remember that. That guy that you banned is so insane. Wait, what was the username? I gotta show you guys what this said. Hold on. That was amazing. This guy came in and said, "What's up, Hasan, Baby Oil, Epstein, Diddy, Hitler, Piker? How's our favorite terrorist supporter doing today?" You gotta unban them. That is remarkable. A remarkable sequence of words strung together. Respect. I do like that, and I've talked about this before, the internet basically has made like insane people find one another in unique spaces, and it's made a lot of people not realize that like the person on the other side of the computer is like most likely a mentally unstable individual. Okay? And so many of my haters have just basically found this like unique space where they can be as schizophrenic as they want to be. And, you know, it yields remarkable bounties such as that one. Let's continue.
But earlier this month, Attorney General Pam Bondi said she was turning off the spigot. The Wall Street Journal reports Bondi and Blanche informed the president in May his name appears multiple times in the Epstein files. The paper reports they told Trump they did not plan to release them because they contained child pornography and personal information about victims. Trump deferred to their decision. Last week, Trump denied Bondi told him his name was in the files.
Did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the files?
She's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen.
The next day, Trump ignored the question.
Is your
your name in these files, Mr. President? Is that why they aren't being fully released?
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Hey, thank you.
The Wall Street Journal reports other high-profile individuals were also named in the Epstein files, but appearing in them is not indicative of wrongdoing. Trump and Epstein were friendly for more than a decade. When Epstein was arrested in 2019, Trump said they had a falling out and hadn't spoken in 15 years. The Attorney General now says nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution.
Yeah, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Don't even cover it. Don't even talk about it. Why are you even talking about it at all? Also, I do love other people coming into contact with like things that have occupied a tremendous amount of space in my mind. And I'm sure like my TrueAnon heads will also recognize this as well. That this interview is a very famous deposition from 2010. Okay. And as someone who has covered Jeffrey Epstein extensively for years, who has a true fascination with this major possible intelligence asset for the Mossad and the CIA that ran a blackmail, money laundering, child sex trafficking ring. It's always fun when other people find out about this stuff. Okay. And yes, I did hit up Brace. He's not around for the week, but I'm most likely going to have him next week. I'm going to have him on next week. I know, like, people people look at this, people find this old stuff and they think, oh, it has to be AI because this is the most insane video of all time. Why has no one talked about this video? This is incredible. You know, Brace and Liz, of course. What do you mean, wow, no Liz love? Liz Franzak is the one who carries the show. Let's be real. Anyway, adopt Brace and make him your gay pussy eater. He is. He is the people's gay pussy eater. Okay. In any case, brace yourself if you have not seen this before. This is a very famous deposition from 2010. Let's take a look.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Have you ever had a personal...
This deposition has crazy stuff in it. They talk about his egg-shaped penis in it. This deposition also has a very famous line from it where Jeffrey Epstein says, "I hate pedophiles." Like, this is it's terrifying. It's fascinating. It's also kind of funny in a weird way because this is not a funny situation at all. But you know, when you got a guy like Jeffrey Epstein being like, "I hate pedophiles," like, it's kind of funny. I guess maybe he just hates competition. I don't know. Even though he literally was, you know, the most prolific. Well, I guess Jimmy Savile was more prolific than Jeffrey, potentially. Yeah, it's like King Von saying end gun violence. But yeah, Trump on people pleading the Fifth Amendment, disgraceful. I mean, Trump himself has done that as well. So yeah. Here's a compilation from the deposition.
Would you raise your hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending should be the
No,
truth,
this is
the
a
whole
different
truth, and nothing but the
deposition.
truth?
Yes, ma'am.
This is from 2012.
Would you please state your full name?
I'm Jeffrey Edward Epstein, and my residence address is 6100 Red Hook Boulevard in Virgin Islands.
Do you maintain
Dogs.
any other residences presently?
I have vacation homes in New Mexico, Palm Beach, New York, and Paris.
The Paris one was attended by Noam Chomsky, and the New Mexico one, also known as Zorro Ranch, is very famously frequented by Bill and Hillary Clinton. And of course, the Manhattan one was frequented by virtually everyone from former Israeli prime ministers, heads of state, and Yes, Noam Chomsky went to and linked up with at least Jeffrey Epstein's butler, I'm pretty sure, in Paris, in his Paris home. The New York one, chill, bro, don't implicate my goat. I mean, this is just true. Noam Chomsky and his wife had dinner with Jeffrey Epstein, I think. Yeah, I mean, they were in France. That's the norm there. Kids and stuff. True. He don't got internet. Noam Chomsky absolutely has internet. Where was I? Hold on. This is not about Noam Chomsky. Oof. The New York one famously also had Elon Musk's brother, Kimball Musk. He frequented the New York mansion as well. So I call balls and strikes on this broadcast. So yeah, I'm not gonna shelter you from the truth. You know, when it comes down to some of our faves being implicated, Noam Chomsky, absolutely. We found out only a couple of years ago he had contact with Jeffrey Epstein. It's true. Now, you have to remember, this is why we want to know the extent of people's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've covered it.
That's kind of wild. Like, is he the worst person? I don't know. I mean, there's like people that are worse for sure, but he is up there. You know what I mean? Like, he's up there. He's definitely up.
Yeah, I covered it back then when we found out, May 1st, 2023. All right, let's continue.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes.
What was the crime of which you were convicted?
Two counts. One, soliciting prostitution and procuring a minor for prostitution.
By the way, that is a lowered crime that he was convicted of. The original crime that he was investigated for and charged for and should have been convicted on was sex trafficking of minors. Okay? Because that was actually what he did. But as it stands, when you get a sweetheart plea bargain deal, okay, they lower that crime to soliciting prostitution from minors, even though he was the one who actually, first of all, it's crazy to say that, minors are doing prostitution because it's just, you're doing statutory rape. Like there's no, it's not like these minors have a 1099 that they're filling out at the end of their, long work day. Like that's crazy. It almost comes across as like a professional situation where there's like some kind of consent established. That's not the case. You cannot consent when you're a minor. This is part of the reason why people don't say CP anymore. They don't say child pornography anymore. They say child sexual abuse material, because pornography is something that can be done legally, and in the overwhelming majority of cases is done by consenting adults who have jobs, right? Like it's very different than someone who is incapable of consenting. Anyway, let's continue. Yeah, this is
in fact commit those acts?
I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right.
How many times have you solicited a minor for prostitution?
Same answer.
How many times have you solicited a minor for prostitution in the state of Florida?
Same answer.
Have you ever solicited a minor for prostitution in the Virgin Islands?
Same answer.
That is, you are invoking your Fifth Amendment?
Yes,
right?
Yes, Mr. Scroll.
Have you ever solicited for prostitution in New York?
Same answer.
Have you ever solicited for prostitution in New Mexico?
Same answer.
Have you ever solicited for prostitution in Paris?
Same answer.
Have you ever solicited a minor for prostitution anywhere at any time?
Again, I'm going to assert my right.
Let's take another break. We're going to go off the record. So you are terminating the deposition at this time?
The recess of the deposition. What college did you attend?
Cooper Union.
And did you get a degree from Cooper Union?
No, sir.
How many years were you in college?
I believe 2.
What'd you study?
Physics.
Cooper Union, no degree, goes to the Dalton School. Bill Barr, the attorney general that oversaw Jeffrey Epstein's possible assassination when he was in federal prison. Bill Barr's father was the head of the Dalton School and was the person who gave him his first job as a math teacher at the Dalton School, for the record, regardless of the fact that he had not even finished his undergraduate degree.
Well, isn't it true that you were a teacher at the Dalton School in New York after college? It's just unheard of. It's just an unbelievable scheme to have kept going for that long of a period of time. Do you consider yourself to be bisexual? No. Okay. In any event, you did develop a sexual relationship with Leslie Wexner at some point in time. Is that true? No.
Oh, that's the other thing. I forgot. Oh my God, there's so much there. So Les Wexner, the founder of like limited brands, Victoria's Secret, many others, major Ohio booster, one of Ohio's biggest billionaires. Les Wexner is the guy that took him from the Dalton School when I think he was fired from the Dalton School, if I remember correctly. There's like so much going on there. But Les Wexner basically took Epstein under his wing and basically gave him power of attorney over his entire fortune. There are so many incredibly wealthy people throughout Jeffrey Epstein's career that have just like decided to use Jeffrey Epstein for his brilliant, I guess, financial acumen or something. It's very suspicious. It's very weird. Once again, we still don't know what the real reason was. We still don't know how he made his money. And when I say we, I mean the public doesn't know how he made his money. But obviously, people who investigated his financial crimes alongside his sex crimes at least have a better understanding, because there is a paper trail. There's thousands of wire transfers from incredibly wealthy people, other disgraced financiers like Leon Black and like Les Wexner. I was wrong. He went to Bear Stearns first, climbed up the ranks at a pace no one had ever heard of, went out of his own, and then was appointed power of attorney with Wexner. Yeah. Why wasn't the IRS all over this guy? I mean, because I think he's a federal agent. But yeah, he left Dalton School. He went to Bear Stearns. And then Les Wexner brought him in at some point. But Wexner also gave him power of attorney, remember. And it's very interesting that like Les Wexner, he's not dead. He's still around. He's still a omega billionaire. People know who he is, right? And yet no one ever asks like what the level of connection that he had with Les Wexner. Anyway, let's continue.
Mr. Epstein, how long have you been sexually attracted to underage minor females?
Objection, harassing, argumentative. Are you kidding?
Oh, I mean, I don't feel like I'm divulging any secrets here, right?
Move to strike.
Mr. Epstein, were you sexually abused as a minor?
Yeah, there are rumors that Les Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein were in a secret gay romantic relationship as well.
Right. Again?
Were you sexually abused as a minor?
I'd like to respond to all your, if any, questions seem to be relevant, but I would like to respond to any relevant question at this time. However, my attorneys have counseled me that I cannot provide answers to the questions relevant to this lawsuit today. I must accept their advice or risk losing my Sixth Amendment right to effective representation. Accordingly, then, I assert my Fifth, Sixth, and 14th Amendment right to the United States Constitution.
This is from another deposition in 2009.
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
You and you feel that it will result in you being prosecuted for these crimes. Isn't that right?
Objection, argumentative, harassing, and calls for a legal conclusion.
Yeah, his friend in France is Jean-Luc Brunel, who was in the modeling industry and was also a alleged prolific sex trafficker and an associate of Jeffrey Epstein, who also found himself in a Parisian prison and also had a untimely demise, not dissimilar to Jeffrey Epstein. He also felt really sad in jail, I guess, and he also killed himself in jail, just like Jeffrey Epstein did. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
No, in fact, the Supreme Court recently said that the Fifth Amendment right is there to protect the innocent. So that's the way I'd like to answer that.
Are you released from jail at some time? Do you have to report back to jail on a daily basis?
Yes, I report back to jail at 8 p.m.
Every single day?
Yes, sir.
And is it 7 days a week that you're out on work release?
No, sir.
How many days a week are you out on work release?
6.
And of those,
This as a pedophile sex trafficker was allowed to leave the prison on work release 6 days a week. Okay? And considering that he's self-employed, he wasn't actually like going to work. He didn't have like a job. There is no planet where someone who is serving a prison sentence on sex trafficking charges or any charges related to like minors gets to walk freely throughout their sentence. You can't even get this kind of work release for a DUI. Okay? If it was jail, he wasn't serving his sentence. Jail is for pre-sentencing. No, prison. Okay? He was in prison, but it wasn't real prison because he was allowed to leave his prison 6 days a week.
those 6 days, how many hours per day are you out on work release?
12.
But he just went back to prison to go to sleep.
Video recorded her 16th birthday with her and had sex.
Yeah, that chatter is wrong. You can go to county jail. You can go to jail for sentences depending on your crime, depending on your conviction. And I don't know if Jeffrey Epstein was in prison or in jail, but he did have a work release regardless. And yeah, it's got to be 364 days. If it's more than a year, you go to prison. I mean, his sentence was longer than a year. His sentence was like a year and a half, I believe. So I think he was in prison. But again, it changes. It varies from state to state. This was also a state charge. Like, this is a Florida state charge. The one that he went to prison over, or one that he went to jail over, doesn't matter. Whatever. The one where he was imprisoned over, where he was carrying out a sentence. That one was a state charge. The state of Florida, of course.
With her on that day. Form, compound, confusing, argumentative, and harassing.
I'd like to answer that question. But today, I'm going to have to assert my Sixth Amendment rights, my Fifth Amendment rights.
Is it true?
Anyway, God damn, there's so many who've been to jail and prison in here. Here, this is the.
Could you please give us your name?
Jeffrey Epstein.
Is it true, sir, that you have what's been described as an egg-shaped penis? Your penis is oval-shaped, and claim when erect it was thick towards the bottom, but was thin and small towards the head portion, and called it egg-shaped. Those are not my words, I apologize. But as Mr.
Not so fun fact. Harvey Weinstein also had a mangled penis due to gangrene, I believe. So it's a common thing for prolific rapists, serial rapists, and to have some kind of issue or some weird. I mean, the reason why I talk about it is because a lot of people falsely assume that people commit sexual assaults and rapes because they want to, because they're really horny, right? Like they think this is like a sexual desire that they have that they are forcibly fulfilling. And they don't understand that there is gratification coming from this for the rapist, but it's not the same as like being in a consensual relationship with a loved one or, you know, engaging in a consensual sexual act. It's actually a lack of consent that they derive some kind of gratification from, because it's more so about power, holding power over someone else, controlling someone else against their wishes. This is why it's very famously a thing with like a bunch of prolific rapists, that they just have like up mangled penises that don't even work. I think there's about 6 to 7 world leaders tied into this. I think 6, 7 is a low estimate on the number of world leaders that are world power thing to be able to do it. Elon also, people say, has a botched penile implant. So, you know, do with that information what you will. All right. Society is basically set up to fund the lavish lifestyles of pedophiles. Kind of. All right. Let's continue. So there is a very long 3-part series that friend of the show Jabri made about Jeffrey Epstein. And I feel like now that this is more relevant than ever before, I feel like that we could dive into that in a little bit after we're done covering the day's news, because there's a lot of stuff to cover. But I think I'm going to do that eventually.
Prosecution, and we have filed a motion in court to unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts. But a federal judge in Florida declined to release grand jury information, which is supposed to remain secret, saying the court's hands are tied. 2 judges in New York are also considering similar requests. Maxwell's meeting here today comes as she is appealing her conviction, and the Justice Department just last week urged the U.S. Supreme Court to reject that appeal. Michael?
Yeah, I know a lot of people saying what comes of this meeting. If anything, thank you so much for that.
The more breaking news now, also once again from our US partner NBC News, and it is relating to this continuing saga involving the Trump administration and the Jeffrey Epstein files, and how many of those files are going to be made public. Well, a senior law official in the United States has confirmed that the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, is meeting right now with Ghislaine Maxwell, the former associate of Jeffrey Epstein, as well as Maxwell's own lawyers. They're meeting in a conference room inside the US Attorney General's office on the 4th floor of the federal courthouse in Tallahassee. Ghislaine Maxwell, of course, in prison. And we don't know much more other than that the meeting is expected to last throughout the day. Let's bring in Spencer Kubin, who is a lawyer who's represented several of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Thank you very much for being with us. And just first of all, I wonder what you make of this news that the Deputy Attorney General is right now in a meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell and her lawyers.
Thank you for having me on today. You know, it's unfortunately discouraging. The reality is that this is the personal lawyer to Donald Trump. And why would he be allowed a private meeting with Ms. Maxwell? You know, the concern on behalf of the victims, and I've represented 9 of the victims, including victim number 1 here in Palm Beach, Florida. The concern is that he is going in there to somehow persuade Ms. Maxwell to either not testify before the open house and Congress, or to give her some kind of a deal to where if she leaves out certain names, that she'll get some kind of a lighter sentence. What the victims want is a full and open disclosure immediately, not only from Ms. Maxwell to Congress, but also a full and open disclosure of all the documents maintained currently by the FBI. For example, we know that they have over 1,000 hours of videotapes, surveillance tapes that were taken and preserved from inside of Epstein's mansions. We want those released immediately. And President Trump could do that with a swipe of a pen and an executive order tomorrow if he chose to do so.
Right. So you see this as President Trump clearly getting involved.
Speaking of lawyers, have you noticed our favorite Eastern lawyer has been oddly quiet about this whole Eastern stuff? What? Who's our favorite Eastern lawyer? What are you talking about? Who? You mean the Dersh? Because he hasn't been quiet about it. Our favorite Epstein lawyer? Oh, you mean the Dersh? No, the Dersh has not been quiet about this. The Dersh actually thinks... I think the Dersh knows more than you think about this. I think the Dersh knows that Ghislaine Maxwell is not going to... Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony is going to be false, most likely, and that it will absolve both the Dersh and also Trump. So he's been actually pushing for... He's actually been pushing for the Ghislaine testimony
in this whole issue. I mean, his Deputy Attorney General, I repeat, meeting Ghislaine Maxwell as we speak. So what do you think of the way President Trump has handled this whole issue? On the campaign trail, he was all for releasing everything. Now suddenly he's not. What do you make of it broadly?
Well, it's frustrating. It's obviously incredibly frustrating. You know, the victims believed him and took him at his word that he was going to get into office and immediately release everything. We have said since this whole thing started, and this goes back, by the way, to 2006. This is going on almost 20 years of this Epstein saga. And we have always maintained that this was a broad conspiracy, that it was a sexual pyramid with Epstein and Maxwell at the top of the pyramid. But there were many people involved in these sex scandals throughout the world. And we want them all disclosed. We want the public to hear from the FBI's files about everyone that was involved in this scandal, not just Maxwell and Epstein. And it's frustrating that the president now is backtracking on the promises that he made to the general public to release this information.
So you have no doubt there are lists in these files. I mean, how significant is this revelation? Well, I say revelation. The White House is saying it's fake news, that there are multiple mentions of Trump in these documents.
So, in reviewing the discovery that we had in the cases that I litigated, there was never any per se list. So no one ever showed us, and we never saw a discrete actual list of people. What we did see are phone books and message pads of people that were calling the home and making arrangements for women and girls to be sent over to their house. And then those arrangements would be made by Ghislaine Maxwell. So, is there a quote unquote list? I never saw it. I don't know that one exists, but that doesn't mean that there weren't a whole bunch of individuals that were taking part in this entire, scheme, this sexual exploitation scheme. And, look, Donald Trump.
It's not even just the sexual exploitation. Remember, it's not just the sexual exploitation, okay? There is more than just that, because, again, there are a lot of financial entanglements. There are a lot of incredibly powerful, incredibly wealthy people who just gave a lot of money to Jeffrey Epstein. We need to know what that was for. We need to know who was giving money to Jeffrey Epstein, why they were giving money to Jeffrey Epstein. Like, eyes on the prize here. Don't get swept away with the sex crimes, which are numerous, and of course we want to know that as well. But remember, there's more than just the sex crimes too.
It was admittedly close friends with Jeffrey Epstein for many years. We've seen him in numerous photographs at numerous events and parties with him. So if he's innocent and there is nothing that is scary to him in these files, release them. But if he doesn't release them, then the public is going to be concerned that there is something in these files that maybe implicates him in this conspiracy.
And just finally, I mean, how much Well, what is the potential for this causing political damage to the president? And a two-part question, really, because we've only got a minute or so. And is there a problem here that the victims of Epstein get lost in all this?
Well, certainly, I think the victims want this information to be released. But I think that in order to prevent things like this from happening in the future, that there needs to be accountability on all parts. That means accountability on the part of all powerful, wealthy individuals that were taking part in this scheme. So at the end of the day, if he doesn't release these documents, then I think it's a political nightmare for Donald Trump. I think that everybody is going to have serious.
Okay, Hasanabi, what is happening elsewhere that this Epstein thing distracting us from? Because if it's this big, whatever else is happening is huge. No, dude, this is the thing. Anything else that's happening around this is a distraction, and it's not even a successful one. What are you talking about? This is the thing. What more could be a thing than literally a bunch of, like a handful of incredibly wealthy, incredibly powerful people being directly associated with an international prolific sex trafficker of minors? Gaza is starving to death. That's the thing. No, this is not even a distraction away from Gaza being destroyed and annexed. We cover that every single day. And trust me, for a lot of people in the Western world, they don't need much to avoid thinking about that. Okay? They don't need like a distraction to shift their attention and priorities away from the children of Gaza starving to death every single day. The unfortunate reality is many people turn a blind eye to it without any sort of additional distractions. I'm not big into, oh, this story came out to distract us away from this other story type narratives anyway, with the exception of Donald Trump actively trying to, deflect and actively trying to move away from the Epstein stuff by basically bringing up, Barack Obama doing a coup or whatever the he's been doing desperately. And yes, we know for a fact that Donald Trump is definitely worried. I covered this yesterday. In 1997, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu allegedly used tapes of Clinton's phone sex calls with Monica Lewinsky to pressure the White House into releasing convicted spy Jonathan Pollard. Clinton reportedly told Lewinsky that a foreign embassy had tapped their phone. The story, long buried, resurfaced amid speculation about Israel's role in blackmail operations tied to Jeffrey Epstein. I covered it yesterday. The reason why the left has so much infighting is because we can't agree to what to focus our attention on. That's not even true. People can focus their attention on numerous things at the same time.
Today, the U.S. Deputy Attorney General is expected to meet with Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend behind prison walls.
Rebecca Kastner has more on what prosecutors are hoping to uncover.
Recent photos show Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend and accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, going for a run inside the grounds of a federal prison in Tallahassee. She's been behind bars since 2020 when she was first arrested and later convicted.
Oh, Trump is live with... Wait, hold on. Trump is live with Jerome Powell, who he has called to be investigated.
The country is doing really well. I just briefed the chairman of the deal with Japan. Japan is putting up $550 billion in order to lower their tariffs a little bit. That way they have a little bit lower tariff. And they also opened their country to free trade, which nobody thought was even a possibility. And we get a zero tariff in the free trade. We don't pay tariffs, and they're going to pay 15% on everything they send into our country. So it's great. But they put up, as you could call it seed money. Let's call it seed money. You could call it anything you want, but it's a total of $550 billion. So nobody thought any of that was possible, and it's wonderful. And we're doing pretty well with the European Union, likewise, and we have some others. They're all really big, and our country's going to make a lot of money. We would be helped if interest rates would come down, but we're going to see how the board rules on that soon. I'd love to see them come down a lot, but we have a country that's thriving. We had a country 1 year ago. Today we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and we'll get this one finished.
Mr. President,
thank you.
Jerome Powell announced
Two observations out the gate.
Oh my God. What is this, bro? What is happening? What is all of this? Jesus Christ. Let's continue.
Abuse teenage girls.
She is the Rosetta Stone. She knows everything. She arranged every single trip with everybody.
That's why prosecutors at the Justice Department want to sit down with her as they dig deeper into Epstein's crimes and try to uncover who else may be involved.
The president spoke to this yesterday, and he said he thinks it's an appropriate idea.
President Trump encouraged the DOJ to reopen their investigation after facing intense public demand for answers on Epstein's potential clients. Earlier this month, the agency claimed there wasn't anything else to find. But Fox News can confirm the Attorney General told Trump his name was in the files.
I am shocked. Based on his behavior of this last 10 days, I can't believe he's in the files. Who would have ever guessed that?
President Trump said all along that he flew on his plane. Just because you're on the list doesn't mean doesn't mean you're a pedophile.
Before leaving town,
dude, I like the goalposts swinging. Okay, the goalposts are so motorized at this point. Republicans are going from release the pedophile list and it's time to indict Hillary and Bill Clinton for doing pedophilia to, well, you know, you fuck a couple children with Jeffrey Epstein and then all of a sudden you're called a pedophile. Calm down. Is crazy, dude. They literally went from, if you've been in the immediate vicinity of Jeffrey Epstein, you're a pedophile that must be criminally indicted to, who amongst us hasn't flown in the Lolita Express, down to now, eventually, who hasn't sent a bawdy letter to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday saying that they both share hidden secrets? I mean, I would have done the same. What's next, dude? You're going to find out that Trump actually, assaulted a child and be like, well, sometimes children are assaultable. Like, is that what it is? Is that the next step here? Chatters, I am not oblivious. Of course, I know that France has officially said they will recognize Palestine by September. Please stop coming in here to spam it in the chat to be like, dude, I want to be the first to tell you. I know. 1, we are going to get to it. 2, it's nowhere near as significant as you think it is. I don't want to fucking, rain on your parade here, but Ireland recognized Palestine a while ago, and yet they have not even been able to implement boycott, divestment, and sanctions. It's a good thing, and it's only a good thing, even though it is considered a major step. But it's only considered a major step because of the ongoing, continuous injustice against Palestinians. Okay? Understand. I know. Adam from PBD asked Vinny, so you now want to put Trump in jail because he might have slept with a 17-year-old? Oh my God. That's incredible. Ireland is not a G7 country, though. I know, but the reason why I'm bringing up Ireland is because it's a Western European nation state that has recognized Palestine, and even outside of the G7, regardless of the fact that they've recognized Palestine, they can't even get boycott, divestment, and sanctions implemented in Ireland. That's the difference. That's what the problem is. So I'm telling you the limitations. I am telling you the limitations of this major first step. Obviously, every step in this direction is good. Every step in the direction of recognizing Palestine as a nation state is a good thing. Having said that, there is so much more that needs to be done in the limited amount of time that we have. I'm not Mr. Make Perfect, the enemy of the good, but it's just until there is more to be done, until there is actual sanctions, this is just a first step that should have happened a long time ago.
Wednesday, a House subcommittee voted to subpoena the DOJ for the Epstein files, and the Oversight Committee announced it will also interview Maxwell in prison.
What is Donald Trump hiding that he won't release the Epstein files?
Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney says she wants to talk to the DOJ and will tell the truth, but neither side will discuss whether a deal will be cut for her cooperation. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox 32 Chicago.
Well, now let's head to Capitol Hill, where the House Oversight Committee said it will subpoena the Justice Department for those Epstein files. That's according to a committee spokesperson.
There's a policy goal to recognize it during/after the rebuilding to be governed by one of the collaborator Gulf states. It's been around for a while. That's not a victory. It's a checkbox for Israel. Yeah.
Well, a group of Republicans joined Democrats to
We'll
pass
get
the
there.
motion. It was introduced by Democratic Representative Summerlee. This was an 8-2 vote yesterday. The committee will also issue subpoenas to several other people, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Merrick Garland, and William Barr. This comes after the committee subpoenaed longtime Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell for a deposition next month. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us from Washington with more on all this. Julie, good morning. Obviously, this is the big news this morning. First, tell us, what do these subpoenas mean? Does it mean the public gets access to these files? We get more information from them? What happens next?
Not so fast, but this is a significant step, Savannah, and good morning to you, forward in the House Democrats' efforts to try and push this story along. But Republicans are definitely helping them out. You mentioned some of them voted on that panel to advance these subpoenas, in part because Republicans did try to soften the blow of forcing the administration's hand, essentially crossing the president here, by including the names of other officials that are red meat to the base, like Hillary and Bill Clinton, like William Barr, like Loretta Lynch, all of these officials and individuals that the public has probably not heard of from years in any kind of official capacity, people that haven't been in power for a long time, but certainly people that the Trump base continues to want to spread theories about. And so Summerlee, a Democrat from Pennsylvania, offered a motion to subpoena these files from the Department of Justice. They would be unredacted. Congress would have them in full. And it really depends on when James Comer, the top Republican on that panel, signs off on the subpoena. But again, he signed off on the subpoena to Ghislaine Maxwell pretty quickly. So the Democrats expect the same here.
Julie, as someone, obviously you've been on the Hill for a long time, we know how much things usually fall along party lines. This is not so much the case here. I mean, just what's this whole battle over the handling of these files done to the atmosphere there as we see Republicans join with Democrats on certain things and then some kind of hold out because the president says so?
Well, Speaker Johnson is trying really hard to make this a partisan issue. He keeps blaming Democrats, both in his comments to us on the Hill and in his comments on X, on Spaces. He had a conversation with some MAGA influencers yesterday, and all he does is try and paint this as an issue that Democrats are trying to exploit Republicans in. He also points out the fact that Democrats did not try to release these files when President Biden was in power. But the counter argument to that is that the president and his base and Republicans are the ones who kind of put this conspiracy out there, that there exists this list, that there exists these documents that implicates all of these individuals. And that is why the Republican base wants to hear this issue out. Democrats are having a field day with this, to be clear. There were some conversations yesterday. Does this distract from their messaging on that so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, the social safety net programs that will be cut as a result of that? They pushed back quite forcefully. The top Democrat, Hakeem Jeffries, said he thinks these two issues are connected. And by the voting, by these subpoenas in the Oversight Committee, both to Maxwell, but also to the DOJ with these files and even these other individuals, it'll make sure that this story goes on. And it's really becoming a Hill versus White House story and not a Republican versus Democrat story at all.
Julie, one other thing I want to talk to you about, something happening later this morning, the Senate re-voting on 7 of President Trump's judicial nominees. What are some of the big ones here and why a re-vote?
Jeanine Pirro is one of them. Remember, she's somebody who the president nominated to be a top attorney here in D.C. That's when another nominee was struck out because he didn't have the votes. But she's not really the top story here, and that's because the reason for this delay is because you'll remember last week, Senator Cory Booker surprised pretty much everybody when he stopped a committee hearing that was considering some controversial nominees, most particularly somebody named Emil Bovee, who has a long list, a long background the Democrats say is problematic. There was a whistleblower who alleged that he is somebody in his personal capacity as a lawyer to the president, and later on, of course, as a counselor in this administration tried to tell the administration they can defy court orders. Still, though, Booker ended up speaking over a process in which Republicans tried to push forward with those votes. Other Democrats left the room. There has to be at least 2 members of the minority party present when those votes take place. In this case, it was just Booker in the room. And so 7 of those 12 nominees didn't get voted out successfully. And that's why the Senate Judiciary is doing a do-over today.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much.
We thank you for watching.
Recognize the Democrat leader. Mr. President.
Chuck Schumer warns Trump could offer pardon for silence, as DOJ said to me with Ghislaine Maxwell. I like seeing stuff like this because this is the correct approach to this issue. This is the correct way to talk about this issue. And I'm shocked that even someone like Chuck Schumer, who is the #1 booster of Israel, who is way more predisposed with making the left love Israel and never really there when it comes to resisting against Donald Trump, is also taking on this task. That's a good thing. That is not a bad thing. Okay? It's surprising. It seems like the Democrats are, at least at this point, like forced to say the correct things here instead of just turning around and complaining about how you got hoisted by your own petard, you trafficked in conspiracies, and now the conspiracy heads are getting mad at you. Because like that was the initial reaction from a lot of Democrats, a lot of top Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, and I did not like that. I was worried. So I'm glad that they are actually, they're recognizing there's blood in the water, and they're just not doing the classic Democrat thing. Of course, I still, my expectations, Leisha Miller has a recent video on Emil Bovey, can't send links because I'm too broke. Okay, well, you're also taking an hour off because you keep spamming it over and over again. So not only are you broke, but you're also, you have to be quiet for an hour. I'm sorry, after the 8th time you spam that, I'm gonna fucking give you an hour off. Hasan, that's so mean. No, it's not. In any case, back in the day, that would have been a perma. True. I'm much nicer man nowadays, especially coming off my. No, I'm not interested in the video. I'm not going to watch the video. Please stop. I literally just timed out someone. You don't have to immediately link it.
Today marks the first day of the House embarking on their Epstein recess. And already, the story Republicans hoped would quietly fade is growing louder by the hour. Just yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice informed President Trump back in May that his name appears multiple times in the Epstein files. Let me remind my colleagues, only last week, Donald Trump told a reporter that Attorney General Bondi never told him his name was in those files. Now we know that this was a lie, plain and simple, a red-faced lie. And this revelation raises not just serious questions about President Trump, but about Attorney General Bondi herself. Bondi has proven to do all of Trump's bidding. No matter what way you slice it, General Bondi lied to the American people. She told us we'd see the report. She told us it's on her desk. Then we're told there's no report. So you can understand the deep skepticism Americans have when they hear that today, Bondi's personal prosecutors, yes, the very ones under her direction, are preparing to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime accomplice behind closed doors in Florida. Let me repeat, under no circumstances Should anyone from Donald Trump's Department of Justice be allowed to privately interview Ghislaine Maxwell, the conflict of interest just stares you in the face, and it's unacceptable. If you've been following this saga, and given how the White House and Speaker Johnson have so mishandled it, and who hasn't been following it, you know exactly why this moment is so dangerous. There is every reason to fear that Donald Trump could offer Ghislaine Maxwell a pardon in exchange for silence.
That's crazy. Our impact. I guess Chuck's been watching. I guess Chuck's been watching the Hasanabi broadcast. Chatters, you no longer have to feel embarrassed that you call Ghislaine Maxwell around your family, considering that, you know, Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, is also calling her Ghislaine Maxwell. It's now in the Senate. It's in the Senate record. I guess Chuck Schumer has been watching the broadcast. It is unacceptable. He is right. I'm right there, Hasan. That's right. Chuck Schumer official. Following since 2021. Yeah. Old Chucky is a Hasanabi head.
Or even worse, phony exoneration. Let me be clear. Trump is sending his personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, to try and execute a corrupt cover-up, potentially offering leniency to a woman who also abused the victims. Enough. Enough. Enough with the hiding.
Dude, I cannot think of a less compelling speaker. It's just like remarkable how bad he is. It almost feels like he's trying to be boring. Like when he's reading from a piece of paper, and when he says enough, he's like, enough. Enough, I say. We must figure out the truth.
Enough with the excuses and enough with the cover-up. The American people deserve transparency.
It's crazy because, like, we got him and we got Hakeem Jeffries, who's also in the same wavelength, who also hits the same notes. How did we get here? It is crazy.
They deserve answers. And there are massive questions here, not just for the president, but for the vice president, the attorney general.
Okay.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is facing down critics of his decision to send lawmakers home early for the summer amid controversy over the Epstein case. It's just one of the many issues that Johnson talked about in an interview with our Major Garrett for The Takeout.
And to the point when the Trump Justice Department said there were more than 1,000 victims, for people who knew this case very, very well, did a lot of investigative work on it, that number surprised them. High number.
Yeah.
Meaning that to their minds, investigative reporters and others, there have to be accomplices, uncharged accomplices, and that aspect of justice is still missing.
Yes, and it's of great concern to us. I mean, we want full transparency. We want everybody who is involved in any way with the Epstein evils, let's call it what it was, to be brought to justice as quickly as possible. We want the full weight of the law on their heads.
But when the Justice Department said in that same two-page memo, there's no reason to pursue further prosecutions, many said, how can those two things be properly aligned?
These are good questions. I don't know. I've never seen the Epstein evidence. It wasn't in my lane. But I have the same concern and question that a lot of people do. And look, I think the president
This is not a hoax, in other words.
Oh, it's not a hoax. Of course not.
Uh-oh. I mean, that's crazy to step out of line. Trump said everybody's calling it the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Excuse me. Everybody's calling it that. Everybody includes Mike Johnson. Interesting.
And Major Garrett joins us now. Major, so glad to have you here. Not a summer of fun and love for Mike Johnson. How much is this Epstein controversy hanging over the speaker?
Well, it hangs over the remainder of this summer, and it will be an enormous issue when Congress returns in September. Now, look, let's be fair to the Speaker and the House Republican majority. They have gotten a lot of work done on behalf of the Trump White House.
Man, I'm so tired of the story. It's an obvious distraction. Just look at the timing right after the BBB. Brother, I don't know how to describe this to you, but the BBB already happened in 2017. Okay? I promise you, this is more impactful in Trump's base. It's more impactful in like harming Trump and separating Trump from like a bunch of people who were big time supporters of Donald Trump than tax cuts for the super wealthy and Medicaid being destroyed and SNAP benefits being destroyed. Republicans have endless appetite for getting over on the legislative side, especially when it's not happening immediately, especially when it's like hard to decipher, because like the way that they cut Medicaid in the big beautiful bill was not done in a way where it was like, we are going to just completely shut off Medicaid. It was like, oh, we're just going to put you under paperwork, mountains of paperwork, and it's going to happen 2 years from now. So like these guys were never going to actually understand who's doing it. Okay, they got what they want. Now they want President Vance. Now, okay, this I can see. But notice how this is very different than this. They're not trying to shift the attention away from something. I would go so far as to say that Donald Trump actively wants to shift the attention away from the Epstein stuff in general, which is part of the reason why the media is actually hammering this on. Also, J.D. Vance is noticeably absent from this conversation. Have you guys noticed? He is not around. He is just going to Nantucket. He's going to Disneyland. He's all over the place. He's just not on camera. He is never speaking on camera, and he's never talking about this. He's having dinners with Tim Dillon, which is wild. That was crazy. The only time he's talking about Jeffrey Epstein is when he's having a private dinner with Tim Dillon, it seems.
We'll get to that in a second. It's been a highly productive year so far legislatively, but this has become a crisis of leadership, and here's why. If you get in your car, Tony, and it doesn't work, you know there's something wrong when you push the ignition button and nothing goes on. In the House, the car runs through the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee could not function this week. Why? Because Republicans would not advance legislation to the floor because they wanted some signals from leadership about how to proceed on all sorts of resolutions and amendments dealing with Epstein. They got no guidance from leadership, and the House effectively stopped working. The ignition button was essentially disconnected. When the House doesn't work, it can't move legislation. And when it can't move legislation, all attention focuses on leadership.
Why do you think he's being so silent on everything? J.D. Vance is a brown noser and has brown nosed his way all the way to the top. Okay. He's also backed by very powerful billionaires and has a vision and has a goal in mind. He wants to be the successor to the MAGA movement. But in order to be an effective successor to the MAGA movement, while simultaneously knowing that Trump is a bad person, okay, you have to sometimes keep quiet when there is fissures in the base. He can't come out and like defend Donald Trump aggressively and then have people yell at him over it. You know what I mean? He knows that there are big fissures happening within the base of support for MAGA that he wants to make sure that he can have the support of down the line. And he's just basically waiting it out to see whichever way the wind blows. The only time he made a statement was on the Wall Street Journal article, and he angled it in the same way that like Megyn Kelly did, where he was like, this is obviously such a stupid reason for Wall Street Journal is just trying to do the fake news. Like that angle of attack is appropriate for the MAGA base, okay? That angle of attack is like, oh, it's fake news, media going after Trump for silly things again. Like you can still message around that.
And what leadership is doing right now is deferring to the president and the Trump Justice Department. But as the speaker just said, justice must be served, which means there have to be more prosecutions, more transparency. And if that doesn't manifest in August, when Congress comes back in September, this is going to be a significant and irritating political issue for the leader.
Also, Trump is taking questions live from reporters. Let's take a look at what he has to say while he's at the Federal Reserve.
Save more than $1 trillion basically with just a paper transfer. You wouldn't be cutting costs of anything. You wouldn't be building anything. Just a move of the hand saying we're going to lower interest rates. You would save $1 trillion a year. And there's nothing you can do to save that kind of money. Well, we had a little talk about it, and I thought it was a very productive talk. He'll be able to tell you at his next meeting, but I will say that he did say the country's doing really well.
Mr. President, you feel better or worse?
And the country is really doing well.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please, go ahead. No, I didn't think it was tense. No, I thought we had a good meeting. No, there was no tension. There was no tension. I think he had more tension with my great senator to the right. He's pretty tough cookie. He was, you might say, well.
Bottom line is we had an honest, candid conversation about some of the overruns at this building. We had it in my banking committee, and he said we were wrong, and it turns out we were right. Thank God President Trump and his team took enough time to dig into some of the details, and the details are clear. We need to get this project done. We would like to keep it where it is or a little lower, but at the end.
Remember, this is the one issue that they can't just like wish cast away. Not the Epstein stuff. I'm talking about just constantly claiming that the economy is on a rocket ship. Okay? Saying that over and over again is not going to change what it looks like for people's pocketbooks. This is the one thing that you can't just like talk yourself out of. If people's financial circumstances are not moving at least in the green, in a better direction, in a positive direction, and it's clear that they're not, because the very same thing that the Brandon administration tried to do, they are trying to do as well, which is to say, no, it's great, it's fantastic. Meanwhile, people are getting laid off. People have not seen any sort of like significant improvement in their wages. And also, it's mostly just like rich and powerful people in the media trying to play this song and dance by pointing to the GDP, which in this case is not even looking too great anyway, and saying like, well, certain things and the price of certain things have gone down. Look at the graph. Look at the graph. Look at the graph. Look at the graph. Now, it might work for some of Trump's major loyalists because they are in the cult. Okay. But ultimately, the stock market doing well after Donald Trump tanked it aggressively, and like the stock market rebounding, for example, is not necessarily going to translate to people feeling like they are doing well, is not going to lead to people feeling like they can afford rent. Do you understand? You can't just like keep saying it and then expect people to believe that it's happening.
Because they didn't want to pay 20, they were 28%, and they gave us $550 billion up front. 100%, 500. We get 90, they get 10. 90%, they get 10. And there's no payment. It's not a loan or anything. It's a signing bonus, I call it. But they gave us $550 billion and took down the tariffs a little bit, and then they agreed to open their economy to everybody. This was not easy. This took. A lot of people walked out of rooms and things. Sometimes they walked out of rooms, went back to Japan. I said, where are they? They went back to Japan. And then they called and they said, can we make a deal? They came back a couple of times. This happened. This was, as you know, it was over a period of months. And ultimately, they agreed to open their economy. Now, the opening of the economy is worth more than $550 billion, the payment that they made.
Cool.
It's worth more. So between that and the payment, we reduced it down to 15%. But they were at about 28%, and then they bought it down, basically.
But could other countries buy it down?
Yeah, I would let other countries buy it down.
Mr. President, do you feel better or worse about your relationship with the Fed chairman after this meeting?
I feel good about it. I mean, look, I have one dispute, and the dispute is there could be some things with money and, where it comes from, how it's come from, how it's printed, where it's printed, all of the standard things with the Fed.
Now Japanese car makers at a competitive edge versus American car makers?
Interest rates have to come down.
We'll
If
cover
the interest
the
rates don't come
Japanese
down,
deal.
we're knocking it out of
I'll
the
cover the
park
Japanese deal in a
with high
second.
interest rates. If interest rates come down, then that final little element kicks in. That's housing. And the sad part is that people, wonderful young people, young couples starting off, they can't get a mortgage because the rates are too high. Tim knows that better than anybody, I think.
Mr. President, if the rates are hurting families in the country, why let that keep going for another 8 months? Why not just fire the chairman now?
Because to do that is a big move, and I just don't think it's necessary. And I believe that he's going to do the right thing. I believe that the chairman is going to do the right thing. I mean, it may be a little too late, as the expression goes, but I believe he's going to do the right thing. The fact is, it's so big what's taking place in America, where the King of Saudi Arabia says you have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and I thought you were dead 1 year ago. I thought we were dead. I just left NATO, as you know. They're agreeing to pay 5%. We're not paying anything. We send them the equipment. They pay for 100% of everything now for the war, Ukraine. But I just left NATO, and every one of those leaders said, every country, they said,
so hot
and very smart country, very successful country.
It is pretty crazy that the American economy is built around confidence. Obviously, the stock market absolutely is built around confidence. And when you have a confidence man, a con man like Donald Trump, I guess like people have a vested interest in the market succeeding, so they have to kind of act like they believe whatever the he's saying. It's all vibes. It's all made up. And people have basically realized, like, no, we have to kind of act like this is all going somewhere positive, so that they can keep making more money.
Interest rates come down. Good job, you do. You do a nice job. I watch you a lot. Thank you.
Everything is Tesla at this point, is what I mean. Everything is Tesla. Everything is computer. Just like Tesla will just keep. I mean, they have, I guess this year is not the best year to say that, because like this is the first time where Tesla's like actually experienced some shocks. But for many, many decades, there were too many powerful financial interests vested in Tesla stock succeeding. So whenever Elon Musk just lied, and because of the valuation, of Tesla being tied as a tech company and not like a car manufacturer, whenever Elon Musk just like came out and was like, "Oh, you're gonna be able to fly to Mars with your Tesla," people will go, "Oh my God, that's definitely gonna happen." Even though if you look at his performance over the course of the past decade, he's always overpromising and then never delivering. The thing is that the market is 1,000% convinced that Trump is lying about the August 1st tariffs. If they actually go in, the market will plummet because no one has confidence it's real. Same with inflation. Market is wary on tariffs spiking it, so they never believe Trump would actually fire Powell. Lol, it's all fake. Yeah, no, I know. There's a lot of people basically believe that Trump is totally taco Trump, and he's just not going to do it. You mean years, not decades. Tesla stock hasn't been hot for that long if you put it in perspective. Yes, years. Well, a decade. Although Tesla stock has been not performing as well this past year. So this is not the best year to point to, because finally there has been some impact. Tesla CEO Elon Musk is shifting focus from electric vehicles to autonomous technology, including robo-taxis and humanoid robots, according to the Wall Street Journal. Great. But guys, they have epic bacon at the Hollywood Tesla diner. Isn't that cool? Oh God, I can't wait for Tesla to crash and burn. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but if it did, it would be the greatest case of I told you so after years and years. Here's a remarkable moment between Trump and Powell. For those of you who are wondering how this relationship is going.
About 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit. Or a lot.
Nope. No, it didn't. Wait, hold on. We got to run it again.
About 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1,
3.2. This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added.
That's our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building,
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's
So,
not new.
So we're going to take a look. We're going to see what's happening, and it's.
That's so funny. Oh my God. There's nothing funnier than the fact that Trump appointed him in his first term. Okay. And also, it is the one thing that would erode market confidence and would absolutely yield tremendous volatility. So he can't even fire him. Oh, that's crazy. To be fair, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, he'll be like, who appointed this guy? This is a real bad guy. Who appointed this asshole? Yeah, he's asking DOJ to investigate him for fraud because it's costing too much money to build these buildings. So that he can have like some kind of just cause to fire him, I guess. What a asshole. Whoever appointed this guy must have been a real idiot.
Do you expect any more additional cost overruns?
Don't expect them. We're ready for them, but we have a little bit of a reserve that we may use, but no, we don't. We expect to be finished in 2027. We're well along, as you can see.
Nice to take these off every once in a while when we're not under too much danger.
What the was that? Oh my God. What did he do?
Nice to take these off every once in a while.
What is he doing? Wait. Trump says he's surprised Fed Chair Powell was appointed? What? I don't remember this. This is so stupid, dude.
Fed Chair, I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in and extended him. It is my
Oh my God, it's full Brandon. I was I missed this, I guess. And then I didn't. I was on I was at the bachelor party after this. I think he means that Biden reappointed him.
My pleasure and my honor to announce my nomination of Jerome Powell to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. Congratulations. He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed.
Incredible. Incredible work, sir. Whew. Real moron. Must have appointed him. Real stupid. His name is Brandon. I constantly go back and forth on like, is he actually losing his mind? Or does he know that his base does not care when he just like says things that are completely false? And I'm leaning on the Brandonization side of things. Like I do think that there is a Brandonization going on currently. On the issue of inflation, on the issue of like people's attitude towards the administration, Trump is nearing Brandonization levels on that front. He's almost at Brandon's lowest point, underwater by I believe 29 points, or by 25 points. So he's definitely on the Brandon side. Felix says, as your physician, I must be direct. You are the very first Brandonization sufferer to ever contract terminal shrubism at the same time. We can treat your desire for oil and bananas, but you'll never see an approval rating above 39% for the rest of your life. 6 months into his second term, President Donald Trump's job approval rating has dipped to 37%. This is the lowest rating of Trump's second term and just slightly higher than his all-time worst rating of 34% at the end of his first term. Now, something you have to remember, however, is that even at his lowest approval rating, he still was above 90% for the Republicans. Okay. Or above 85%, I think, something like that. So just remember, he's just losing independents. He's losing a lot of the people that voted for him, but that's expected. That is precisely what happened last time around as well. Yeah, independents drive Trump's approval rating to 37%, second term low. This is the lowest it's been in the second term, and it's close to the lowest it's been in its first term. Not that it matters because he's not running again, or maybe we won't even have another election. Who knows? Who knows? Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.